figure out what a healthy family looks like. But before we jump into a healthy family, let's talk about what a not healthy family looks like. That's what I do. As a family coach, I meet with them. I'm kind of like a super nanny. I even go to house calls. But I have an office over here, it's 2 blocks away. I also have an office here at Oaks Christian. But I'll help families try to be healthy. And sometimes families that aren't healthy don't realize that they aren't healthy. It's just what their normal situation is, right? They've always had that. So in my work, what I've noticed is there's probably some characteristics. If you're from a, let's say, toxic family that's not healthy, is a lot of the people in that family are going to be scared. They're going to feel a little nervous. They're going to be a little tense. It's going to be like, whatever you do, don't talk about Uncle Bob at Thanksgiving. Let's not hear about his drinking. There's kind of like an elephant in the room. Have you ever heard of that common phrase or saying? Yeah, it's like, don't talk about this or don't upset or anything like that. So one of the things is that they're scared. I actually did some research with teenagers all across the United States a few years ago for a book. I'm also a writer that I was doing research on called 7 Cries of Today's Teens. We found out that the majority of the teenagers that we surveyed said that a lot of times I don't feel secure at home, or I don't feel safe in my neighborhood, or I don't feel safe with my friends. And so a lot of the time, we were really surprised how many kids were kind of scared. And they tend to be sometimes more afraid of going home. It's just a tense situation. Maybe their dads and their moms or grandparents or whatever. So an unsafe home is, where they're going to be scared. The other characteristic of a toxic home or not safe home is that it's going to be hostile. And so sometimes there's tensions going on in the family, and you just can't just relax because maybe there's going to be some type of a conflict if you bring something up. So a hostile situation, it just makes people feel like they don't belong or they're not connected. And then maybe you come to school, and I don't know if you've noticed this, this is 10th grade, right? Yeah. So you probably noticed this more in 9th grade. Last year, remember way back when you were freshmen? People turn on you. They're in your corner, they're your friends, and then something happens to them later in the day, they say things. And there can be a lot of hostility and bullying, if you will, even cyberbullying, trash talk, whatever. You get that at school, and if you go home to a tense environment and it's kind of hostile, you're like, it can be very overwhelming. So that's not healthy, that's toxic. And then the other thing, if you live in those kind of environments, it's going to leave you insecure. You're going to be, I do not feel at home. And one of the goals of a healthy family is to make you feel at home, right? One of the goals of a healthy family is to help you feel connected, and you have a sense of belonging, and you have your stuff, and your little brother or sister doesn't like to trash it. And you have some rules, and you have some expectations. See how that can be helpful in a family? Now, why do you think these are so common in unhealthy families? What do you think those 3 things are just almost always predictable in an unhealthy family? Look at any kind of unhealthy family, you almost always see these going on. Do they have any theories or explanations? Why are those things there? Why are those common symptoms? Yeah.
Because they fight a lot and therefore their relationships get worse. And so
exactly. Fight a lot, hurts the relationships. And then how does it leave you as the child in the family? Yeah. Alone and insecure.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like the reverse of what a family was designed to be. It was designed to be a place where you connect, you feel more secure, and they got your back, right? Now it feels like they got your back. Stab it. Any other theories on that? Yeah.
There's lack of communication.
Yeah. You're not going to want to just relax with friends that are going to attack you, right? You're not going to want to relax with a family member that are going to attack you. So just going home to an environment like this makes it not a place where you want to be. Any other thoughts on why these tend to be real common in unhealthy families? Yeah.
Maybe someone abuse alcohol or drugs that leads to hostility and then the other one makes them scared and it's scared.
absolutely. Did you guys hear what he said? Use of drugs. By the way, that was a great presentation. And you're a student here. So thorough, smooth and everything. I thought, wow, she's a professional. So that was very good. Congrats. So, but yeah, that's exactly what's going on. So if something's going on, or dad, or mom, or brother, or sister drinks, I work with families sometimes where they have like the one child will be like the designated screw up, you know, and they'll have addictions, or they're just messing up somehow, and everybody else is trying to be super nice, get the good grades, and not cause drama, and that creates problems too. That kid or that student or whoever it is becomes like the center due to his or her addictions. And then the other factor that we see, and these are like the three most common, but also behind, you know, if you live in that kind of environment, you're going to be tired. So, yeah, see, I didn't make for that to be intentional as an acrostic, but that'll help you remember. Who observed that? You get extra credit on that. I actually have this on a PowerPoint in a church, and this is the findings that we're having. I'm just going to keep those and see what people say. That'll help you remember for the test. So a toxic home is that kind of home. Crappy place to live. Truly was not intentional. It just happens to turn out to be that way. The 5 characteristics, there's actually one more that I have. No, it starts with this. Sounds British. Sounds British if you did this. And then if you live in this kind of home, and go ahead and put it up there. If you're tired, instead of home being a place where you recharge, it's a place where you decharge. You don't recharge. It's stressful. We surveyed Oak students a few years ago. We found out that about 62% of the students at your school are feeling stressed. Academic stress, internal stress, relationship stress, things like that. So I mean, it's a wonderful school, it's a great asset, what a wonderful resource you have here, but it can be very stressful, which is why it's really important that you take bits and pieces, if not everything you learn in health class, and kind of go, I actually got to use this stuff. Because some of you are going home to families that are like this all the time, some of you might be going home to families that are part of the time, or you might have a friend that lives in this kind of family. So these are the 5 marks, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, of a toxic, unhealthy family. That's a dysfunctional family. So, any observations or comments about any of this? What do you think? Do you know a family like that? Yeah. You do. Anybody want to challenge this list? Say, that shouldn't be on there. Feel free to, yeah.
Why tired?
Tired because when you're in a conflicted relationship, instead of it being inspirational, it's draining. Everybody's sleeping or to avoid it. Or mom and dad are fighting. And you go, oh, I gotta put up with that again. And that's just fatigue for most people. Most people are going, great, it's so exciting to be starting another day with mom and dad yelling at each other. No, that's really weird. You know, that's draining for most of us. Yeah. Any other comments on that? So this is what I presented, and one of the groups that I speak for is the Young Presidents Organization. And so it's a great group because all these dads typically are the presidents of the company, and not that they have to be dads; it could be moms, but mostly men. Most people that belong to are men. And so I'm a speaker for them, and I was speaking at a father-son retreat back in Pennsylvania. And when I got there early. The speaker should be there early around 9. So I got there early and I'm just chilling outside this hotel. And right outside the back of the hotel was this airstrip. Watching all these jets land, corporate jets. All these jets. And one by one, sooner or later, these guys started walking up with their kids. And it was a retreat for the father and their children who tended to be 12 and younger. So middle school down to, I think, 6 or 7 boys, which is father's son. All these jets that are flying in with the dads, flying in with their sons in a corporate jet. The two of them. Occasionally they jet pool, is that what you call it, I guess? And someone swung by. So these guys have money, right? And they are CEOs, presidents of these companies. So the company has to be a certain size, and these guys have to have a certain amount of influence in their business and in their world to even be part of this organization. So what's it like being a 9-year-old kid going, Dad, let's go do something for the weekend, let's take a corporate jet? Some of you might live like that. It might be normal to you. Well, 17 out of the 32 dads that were there came in corporate jets. A couple of dads that I met said we couldn't land on that landing strip because our citation's too big. It wouldn't fit. So, well, I just tell you that story because it's so interesting that these kids are growing up in a different world than a lot of kids. I wonder if they're more like this or more like a healthy family that we'll talk about in a second. But what was funny was when the dads and the sons were doing things like they were teaching them how to shoot, or teaching them how to do archery, just teaching them different things. I would just stand back and watch them. And I was like, hey, here's something I can experiment with. These guys are used to leading their large companies, right? I'm just going to stand back here because I'm not presenting. I'm just hanging out with them. I'm just going to stand back here and see if any of them want to come over and talk. Because I'd already done the shooting, I didn't need to do it. So while their kids were doing it, while their sons were doing things, one by one, 17 or 18 out of the 32, I can't remember exactly how many, but the majority of the dads came over one by one throughout that day. Just say, hey, kind of like, their shoulders like they're going to do a coke deal or something. Can I talk to you for a second? It's funny, like, they didn't want to talk about this when we were sitting at the table, or when there was other dads who were presidents of different countries around. But when I was standing over here by myself, they came up to me and they said, on the outside, my family looks totally together. I have a job, I have a position, I have the wealth, and some of them even said I have a job. Not all. But we live with this. Someone described this. Or what they described was, I can lead my company, like one dad said, I have a company of 10,000 employees. When I go in there, I can lead, and I know exactly where I'm going, and it's great. But I come home, and my wife and I aren't on the same page. They said, how can my wife and I get on the same page? We fight over the kids, we fight over money, we fight over everything. So it was an interesting contrast. But isn't it interesting? 18, let's say, out of the 32 dads were identifying that it was easier to be at work than it was to be at home. And they identified that privately and individually, and didn't want the other guys to know about it. Does that surprise any of you, or do you feel, that's my dad you described? What are your thoughts on that experience that I had? What's the difference between a work culture and a home culture? Yeah.
Work usually is like something that's should be harder than home. It's like you're trying to make money to go living so you can keep your home.
Right.
So it should be easier to be at home. You would rather be at home than at work.
You think so?
Yeah.
Right.
Unless you really like the job.
That's what most of us would want, right? Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
I think because they're very influential, like they're the leaders of their company,
Right.
they tell everyone what to do.
Exactly.
And there's no one conflicting with them and telling them, no, let's do this instead. But
Right.
at home, you have like their wife is telling them, no, we're doing it this way. And I think like their thinking is like, wait, this is weird. Like I'm not even.
It's a different authoritative level. Yeah.
Like in a work setting, like when you're at the head of the company, people have to respect you or they're out of money.
Right.
But in a family setting, you kind of choose to respect each other and choose to listen to other people in your family and not be the only voice speaking out. But because in a family, if you don't choose to respect them as much as you should, then there's not going to be any. There will be adverse effects, but not as drastic as, oh, you're out of work, you have no money. So.
Good point. Like at work, you can just demand it. Even if you have like a job working in fast food, your boss will come in and go, "This is the way we do it." And I've noticed that when you go to certain restaurants, they have certain things that always say. They've learned that. The boss tells them to say that. But in a home, you have more freedom. Good observation. So we were. I was going to ask you to see if you could guess what the 5 qualities of a healthy home were, but you already have them in front of you. So you don't have to guess. But as you look at that list, in contrast to this, we'll get rid of this, and nobody, reports me to the administration and write a nasty version up here. But as you take a look at those 5 qualities, here's what I'd like for you to do as we take a look at this. I came up with this because I found out that most families don't have an assessment, including these executives, these CEOs, an analytical, objective goal for their family. They have one for their work. They know how to lead at home, but they don't know how. They know how to lead at work, but they don't know how to lead at home. So there's this group called Search Institute. They've surveyed thousands and thousands of adolescents, and they've come up with what makes a healthy adolescent. Then they started to survey these students, and they said, "Oh, these are like super stellar athletes. They're really together. They do well in life. They do well in school. They do well in sports and arts." But some of them are going home to these families that aren't so healthy. So then they started to study what makes a healthy family. So they spent millions of dollars. They surveyed 1,511 different families. Each of those families had to have one parent, and one child. The child was usually 10 to 15, so right about the age of distribute. What they found out was there were 5 qualities of healthy families, and there were actually 21 different habits in those families have. They break down about 4 qualities. So I just reduced it to my favorite 2 habits under each one. And what I use is I'll go in and I'll ask each family member for 10 I'll have. You don't get a lot of reaction from 7-year-olds on that. But I say, "Hey, I want you to give a report card. The report card is on your whole family." So it's kind of like the role reversals. What I want you to do, if you choose to accept the extra credit, is make copies of this and give it to other family members and sit down and have everybody turn in, how they would rank, what kind of grade would they give your family. But at least do this individually. Sometimes you can't control the whole family. Nobody wants to do it. You don't want to ask them. I get that. But it makes for a really interesting family conversation. It's this guy, this researcher that did this, said these are the 5 qualities of a healthy family. And these are the 10 habits that really would help build a healthy family. So let's just pick the first one, then we'll take a few minutes just to discuss in the groups. First one is nurturing relationship with positive words. The idea here is you're saying words that build the other person up, not tear them down. Do we have any cheerleaders in the room? They're at cheer camp this weekend. That's where they all are. Have you ever thought about what would it be like if you had a pessimistic cheerleader? And was out there, in football or basketball, and going, "Oh, we suck." And they get up there and actually have a cheer. In fact, let's just practice it, okay? I want you to repeat after me. You know how you have to call out? The cheerleader says the letter and you call it back. Okay? You guys ready to do a little?
Yeah.
Say it loud enough so maybe the people next door, okay? All right? Give me an L.
L.
Give me an O.
O.
Give me an S.
S.
Give me an E.
E.
What are we going to do?
Lose.
What are we going to do?
Lose.
Who are we?
Losers.
Doesn't that inspire you? So encouraging. That would not be good to have a pessimistic cheerleader. Actually, kind of a funny SNL skit now that I think about it. But the usually are supposed to be, positive. So, do the cheerleaders help the athletes actually play better? Depends on your point of view, of course. Yeah, because they're kind of inspiring you. You might be lagging as the athlete, but they're kind of, peppy and cheery and have confidence in us and hope, and we're like, oh, at least they have hope. I guess maybe we're not going to lose by 40. You know. So how can you be a cheerleader at home? Do you have to put on the skirt, pom poms, or how do you cheer a family member at home? What are some ways you can do that? Encouragement, yeah. When do we need encouragement? Yeah, when we're down. And when you think about the word, I mean, it's just a simple word. Encourage means to pour courage into. Oh, I just got a C on this test, and I need to get an A in this class. You're discouraged. And then this family member comes up and goes, hey, you can do it. That encourages us. What else? How else can positive words help us at home? How can a family member help at home with positive words? Yeah.
It makes the children, even the adults, look less self-conscious.
Yeah.
So like if you're feeling out like, oh, it's so good today. Like sometimes I'll walk downstairs and I'm like feeling good or feeling pretty, and like without even saying anything, like the second I walk in the kitchen, my dad's like, oh, you're so beautiful today. Like, oh, all the boys must be like me at school or something, and a dad, like, or even my brother picks up on it sometimes, like, and they'll just say something nice, or I'll do the same to them. Because I know my brother like gets offended by his height, so I'll just be like, hey, no, you're looking tall and strong and manly. I don't know, but even if they know I'm like being corny, it still helps with it. It still makes you smile.
Yeah. Corny works. If it's positive corny, it still works, right? Yeah. Yeah.
And then also, if you use positive words, it'll make the person in the family feel better as well as yourself. So it's kind of like you know,
It's true. Absolutely true. Yeah, in the back.
If you're like, I guess if you have like an interest, I guess, in something, it's like a family member, it's like, they don't want to really be put down because like if they're just starting it, kind of suck if they like, also you couldn't do it and stuff, and like, they say like you're really bad at it and you're uncoordinated, I guess, if you want to do some sort of sport.
Oh, you're going to fail the test.
Yeah.
Oh.
That's kind of like the reverse of positive words, right?
Yeah, she's like, you're going to fail, you're going to study. And I'm like, well, maybe I won't fail. She's like, no, you're going to fail. So they fail.
So this can be very helpful for you. Because you can say, hey, Mom, they told us at health class that positive words actually help us. So drop it on the negative words, because it actually doesn't help. That's why I was saying if you want to make copies of the house around, you can actually kind of. So how this works is you either do it yourself if you want to take the extra effort to get family members to evaluate it. Just have each person give an A, B, C, D, or F. And then you can sit down and discuss if you want with a family member or the whole family, you can pull that off. But at least maybe with one other person, say, wow, why did you give that an F? Why gave this a B? Why gave that a D? Why gave that an A? What I like to do is if I get the whole family to do this, which I usually can because they're paying me, right? And I give this as an assignment. I go, here's what I want you to do. Talk for 10 minutes about these 5 things. Everybody fill out their report card. The students love doing it. Why would you guys like to do a report card on the whole family?
Then you can show them those things.
Payback, right? You're always asking me about my grades. Now I get to grade the whole family. So here's your opportunity, right? You're not grading your parents, by the way.
Oh.
You're grading the whole family. So it's like if you, how many of you play team sports? Most of you do. So the difference between individual sports and team sports is even if you do a thing like swimming, you're still getting points from the team. Or cross country or things like that. But anything that you do as a team is kind of like a family, especially if it's a good team. So what you're trying to do here is go, hey, well, we didn't like take basketball, or let's pick soccer since we're doing the World Cup. And Coach likes soccer. She knows way more about soccer than I do. But in soccer, from what I understand, even though I played for 8 years, you're supposed to share the ball, right? You're not supposed to hog the ball. And so a team maybe will not win or they'll have a draw or something like that. But they say, we played really well. Go, really? You guys scored no goals. Well, yeah, we played really well. Because there's an element of working together as a team. So that's the idea here with this family health report card. You're kind of saying, how do we work together as a system or as a team? Does that make sense? Okay, so the first qualification, or the first habit of the quality is positive words. The second one is affection. And affection is the appropriate display of bonding and love and affection for family members. It's got to be the right time and the right place. You don't want mom kissing you as she drops you off in high school, right? Maybe do, I don't know. So, what would affection be for a high school student from their parent or family member? What makes you feel, nurtured? What makes you feel connected? Yeah. Praise when you do something well. Does it go an extra bit when they kind of give you high five or knuckles or hug or something like that? Some people like that, some people don't. How many of you like little knuckles or skin or attaboy, attagirl or a hug or something like that? How many prefer that or like it? How many are like freaked out by it? Just say it, don't touch me. It's okay to go. Alright, so here's what I'd like for you to do. I'd like for you to get in groups of 3 and talk about the first 2 qualities. Nurturing relationships and establishing routines. Why would those 2 things, which includes family meals and shared activities, why would those kind of things make a family healthier versus a family that doesn't have those things? Okay? So you're going to talk about the first 2 qualities. Yeah.